Very good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you.
It really was a year of rage, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and it's a huge disappointment when you look at constitutions across Southern Africa that purport to enshrine human rights. But in practice, people are not having their lives improved. So in terms of socio-economic rights, access to food across the region, people have struggled with that. Access to education, access to clean, potable water. All these things have been huge challenges. But beyond that, we saw also that there was repression in some countries, Zimbabwe, for example, where the state authorities, the police, the military, used excessive force on protesters, used the law to harass and persecute activists and human rights defenders. And
killing people, raping people?
Absolutely, and with impunity, with no accountability, those implicated have gone scot-free.
Why do you think this continues to happen? Is it because there are not enough checks and balances in place, the fact that people aren't held to account?
Well, it's a combination of factors, but certainly, yes, not enough checks and balances, but also weak human rights institutions and an attitude of disregard for human rights by the authorities who see human rights as an inconvenience, and also a failure to prioritize, to put resources to support and have strong human rights institutions. For example, the police, they need to be trained. In South Africa, we saw that, gender-based violence was on the rise, but the police did not adequately step up to meet the challenge. The same with xenophobic violence, attacks on foreign truck drivers. Again, the police was found wanting because there were no thorough investigations, proper prosecutions that led to convictions. So hardly anyone was convicted, and yet there were so many crimes, violent crimes, that were documented, videos that went viral, but no accountability.
What exacerbates human rights abuses? I mean, I know dictatorships, often that comes under them, Egypt, for example, but does tough economic climes add to the problem?
Yes, absolutely. So tough economic conditions, rising in unemployment, extreme poverty, but also massive, rampant corruption by the leadership. So when there is corruption, the money that should otherwise be used to improve people's lives is diverted into individuals' pockets, and therefore people cannot meet and enjoy their rights. That's another challenge. And also the desire by some leaders to protect and secure their political power, and the wrong view that if they crush and constrict and constrain human rights, that is the only way to guarantee political power under authoritarianism.
South Africa is taking over the helm of the African Union. They've taken it over from Egypt. I mean, how can a country like Egypt be in control of something like this sort of powerful body? Shouldn't human rights abuses be tackled at that level?
They should indeed be tackled at that level, and this is one of the challenges that we saw, that Africa has weak human rights institutions, but we are hoping and pushing that now that South Africa is at the helm, it needs to show leadership in its foreign policy agenda that reflects a human rights-oriented approach. This is what President Ramaphosa repeatedly promised, looking back and drawing on Nelson Mandela's legacy. We need to go back to that position and help South Africa, helping the continent to resolve, crisis situations in Lesotho, in South Sudan, in Burundi, and ensure that there is stability, there is development, and there is enjoyment of human rights that leads to an improvement in people's lives.
Who's doing it well? I know there's been some improvement on homosexual rights in a few countries.
Yes, Angola scrapped laws that criminalize same-sex relations, and so that's a positive. Eswatini, the last absolute monarch on the continent, has not done well on civil and political rights front, but there have been some developments in terms of women's rights, some law reforms, sexual offences bills to enhance the protection of the rights of women in Eswatini, and also within the context of marriage. So that's a positive. Across Southern Africa, we saw that a number of countries have moved to ban child marriages of anyone under the age of 18. And this is very important to protect particularly the rights of the girl child. So those are points that we need to acknowledge, but we are encouraging that more can be done, because the idea of human rights is to make sure that people can live lives of dignity, and it's for everyone.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
You can do better.
Thank you.